This happened about a year ago. My name is Eliza, and at the time I was spending the evening with my close friend Carla. We worked at the same office, and after a long overtime on a Friday, we decided to relax at my house. Around 9 p.m., we ordered food from our favorite restaurant through a delivery app. The plan was to watch a thriller movie while enjoying some pizza. Not long after the order was confirmed, the doorbell rang. I was a bit surprised. It seemed too fast for the food to have arrived. I got up and walked to the front door. Carla even shouted, "That was quick." But when I opened the door, it wasn't the delivery guy. Standing there was a strange man. He wasn't holding anything, and his appearance clearly didn't match someone delivering food. Instinctively, I shut the door without saying a word to him. I went back to the living room and told Carla there was a stranger at the door. We both felt uneasy. My house was far from the main road, and it was rare for anyone unfamiliar to come by. We tried peeking through the window. There were no vehicles parked out front, and we didn't see the man walking away. It was as if he'd vanished. I started to suspect he might be hiding, maybe near the side of the house or behind the bushes. A few minutes later, we heard a faint noise coming from the back of the house. We weren't sure what it was. It could have been an animal, or maybe just our imagination. But something felt off. Then the doorbell rang again. This time, when we looked out, we saw a man in a pizza delivery uniform, complete with a cap, a legit delivery guy. I opened the door and took the order. I even asked him if he'd seen anyone standing outside when he arrived. He looked confused and said he hadn't seen anyone. After he left, we tried to calm down and started watching the movie. But not even 15 minutes had passed when the doorbell rang again. I had a bad feeling. I peeked through the curtains, and there he was again, the same man. This time he was standing closer to the door, and his eyes locked straight onto mine. I stepped back and told Carla to call the police. But then I hesitated. Was it really okay to call the cops just because someone was standing outside? He wasn't doing anything illegal, so we tried to ignore him. When we checked again, he was gone. Thinking he'd finally left, we resumed the movie. But 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang again. This time, I got up, ready to confront him. As I approached the door, I looked out the window and saw the man crouching in the bushes beside the house. That was enough to freak me out. I immediately called the police. We waited while keeping an eye on all the windows. And sure enough, he was still there, crouched in the bushes, as if watching the house. About 2 minutes before the police arrived, we heard a loud bang against the living room window. We quickly backed away and moved toward the back of the house. Soon after, another bang, this time at the back window. It felt like he knew where we were going. We eventually ran and hid in the storage closet near the kitchen, away from all windows. The banging sounds continued for a few minutes, but finally everything went quiet. Then we heard a car pull up and voices shouting. It was the police. We came out of hiding and saw the officers had apprehended the man in the front yard. We never found out who he was or what he wanted, but from that night on, I became much more cautious, and I'll never ignore a bad feeling again. I had just quit my job as a food delivery driver, and the reason? It might sound crazy, but I know it was the right decision. I started working there about 6 months ago. At first, everything felt easy. Most of the deliveries were in the same area. The pay was decent, especially when I got lucky with big tips. The hours weren't too long, so I didn't have much to complain about. Sure, sometimes I had to deliver food in the middle of the night, driving through dark and quiet streets. Creepy? Yeah, but nothing ever happened until 2 weeks ago. It was a Saturday night, and I was scheduled to work until 3 a.m. Usually, things slow down before closing time, but that night, one last delivery came in around 2:30 in the morning. I grabbed the food, got in the car, and headed out. The address wasn't too far, maybe a 10-minute drive. When I got there, I entered a quiet, dark neighborhood. Streetlights were few and far between. The house I was delivering to was right in the middle of a row of other homes. I parked, got out of the car, and walked to the front door. It was eerily silent, not even crickets. I rang the doorbell, no answer. The lights in the house were all off. Weird. I waited a bit, then knocked. A few seconds later, the door opened. A man appeared. He was wearing a hat and sunglasses. At this hour? I thought it was odd, but he just said, "Thanks," took the food, and shut the door. I turned around and was about to head back to my car when I heard a sound coming from the garage, like someone manually lifting the door. To get back to my car, I had to walk right past it. I moved slowly, feeling uneasy. Instead of taking a risk, I decided to cut across the front lawn. But just as I started walking, I heard footsteps, more than one, chasing after me from the direction of the garage. I ran, hit the remote to unlock my car, and practically dove inside. I locked the doors, started the engine, and looked back. No one was there, but I knew someone had been chasing me. I sped off. But just as I started to calm down, I saw headlights turn on from that same house. A car pulled out and started following me. I tried taking random turns, going through small streets, but the car stayed behind me. When I was close to work, I hesitated. Should I go straight there or keep driving? I ended up driving straight into the parking lot at work. Strangely, the car didn't follow me in. It just kept going, like they only wanted to scare me. I told my manager everything. He was shocked, but glad I was safe. That was the last delivery for the night. The store closed, and I got ready to head home. But as I pulled out of the lot and turned onto the main road, I saw it again, the same car, parked across the street. As soon as I passed, they started following me again. I panicked. I didn't want to go home and risk putting myself or anyone else in danger, but I also had no idea where else to go. Then I remembered. There was often a police patrol car parked at a small field about 5 minutes from my house. As soon as I spotted the police car, I slammed on the brakes. The car behind me had to stop suddenly, too. I did a quick U-turn and pulled straight into the lot where the officers were. The car that had been following me looked like it was about to enter too, but once they saw I was heading toward the police, they took off. I got out and reported what happened. The officer said they'd patrol the area that night. If I saw the car again, I should call them immediately. After that, I finally went home. Thankfully, nothing else happened that night. But since then, the anxiety never really left. A few days later, I decided to quit and look for a safer job. Now, at least, I can sleep peacefully without the fear of being followed in the middle of the night. Back then, I was in my second semester of college, and it was summer break. Instead of just lazing around at home, I decided to look for a part-time job. I ended up getting hired as a pizza delivery guy at a local restaurant that was only about 5 minutes away from my parents' house. The job was pretty easy. Pick up the order, deliver it, come back, repeat. It got tiring sometimes, but the pay was enough to cover gas and weekend hangouts. About 2 weeks after I started working, I experienced something that still lingers in my mind to this day. It was a Saturday night, and the weather was pretty nice. I remember clearly because that night was particularly busy. Orders were coming in nonstop, and I had already delivered nearly 10 in just a few hours. At around 10:45 p.m., I got another order. The name of the customer wasn't anything strange, but the address made me pause. I was pretty familiar with the area, but I didn't really recognize the street name. Still, I picked up the pizza, got into my dad's old sedan, and started driving while following the GPS. The drive only took about 10 minutes, but the closer I got to the location, the quieter it became. Houses were getting farther apart, and there were fewer streetlights. Eventually, I turned onto a small road that the GPS marked as the final destination. But when I arrived, I was stunned. It wasn't a house, it wasn't an apartment, it wasn't even a building. In front of me was just an empty park, more like a neglected public green space. Tall grass, old park benches lined up under big trees, and a narrow path leading into what looked like a small forest. There was a tiny parking area, completely empty, and the only source of light came from my car's headlights. I pulled over to the side of the road, opened the map on my phone, and the GPS said I had arrived. I even stepped out of the car for a moment, hoping to see someone, maybe the customer waving from behind a tree or something, but there was no one. Total silence. Not even the sound of crickets. After standing there for a few minutes, I started to feel uneasy. My gut told me something was off. Who orders pizza to a park at almost 11 at night? For what? A midnight picnic? I got back in the car and called my manager, Rick. He picked up on the third ring. "Hey, Rick. It's me, Joey. I'm at the last delivery address, but it's like a park. There's no house or person here." You sure it's the right address?" "Yeah, the GPS led me here, but it's seriously just a park. No buildings." Rick paused for a moment. Then he said, "Sometimes people mess around. If no one shows up in 5 minutes, you can cancel the order. But take a photo of the location for proof, okay?" I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I hung up the phone and stepped out to take a picture. Just as I was pointing the camera toward the park bench, I heard something. Footsteps coming from the path. I immediately turned around. At first, I didn't see anyone, but a few seconds later, I saw a figure emerging from the trees. The silhouette was faint, but I could tell it was someone tall, probably a man. But what really gave me chills was that he didn't walk toward me. He just stood there, half hidden behind a large tree, and just watched me. I got back into the car right away, locked the doors, and placed the pizza on the seat next to me. That person was still standing in the same spot. I started the engine and thought to myself, if he moves toward me, I'm gone. And sure enough, as soon as the engine came on, the man started moving, but not fast. He walked slowly, stiffly, like he wasn't in any hurry. I didn't wait another second. I floored the gas and got out of there as fast as I could. After that, I drove straight back to the restaurant. Rick didn't ask too many questions when I told him what happened. He just said, "Don't worry about it. You'll forget by tomorrow." But I never did. And what's even weirder, when I checked the order history the next morning out of curiosity, that order didn't exist. The customer's name wasn't recorded. The address wasn't logged. It was like the order never happened at all. I never delivered to that park again. And for the rest of that summer, I always had the feeling that he, whoever he was still watching me from behind the trees, waiting.